This is unbelievable. After one of the worst performances of the entire season, the Rangers follow it up with one of the worst performances of the entire season. And they do squeak out the win, but this could have serious implications on what Chris Drury decides to do with the team heading into this year's trade deadline and moving forward in the future. We're going to break it all down in this episode of Rangers Digest. But before we do that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 68% of you who watch these videos are not subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything that's happening with the New York Rangers, from trade rumors to trade reports, it's that time of year with the trade deadline right around the corner. And we're going to get into it in this video. It's free. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. What was this weekend? I mean, they haven't had this bad of a performance in this poor play since December. It was looking like the December New York Rangers. This weekend was awful, and it's either, maybe the Pittsburgh Penguins are one of the best defensive teams in the league, right? And that's why the Rangers were held to almost no shots in a period once again, which happened just before the Four Nations face-off break. Maybe it's that, the Pittsburgh Penguins are one of the best teams in the league. No, they're not. What is happening with this Rangers team? And I mean, they do squeak out this win, and this was a huge win. You lose this game, you're in a bad spot. I mean, you got to start making trades tomorrow morning if you're Chris Drury. But let's get into it. I want to go back to yesterday's game, last night's game against the Buffalo Sabres. I said on the channel, both of these games should have been wins. Now, did they win? They did not win yesterday. They did not. Should they have won? Yes, they should have won that game. They absolutely should have won this game. And one thing that I actually was quite upset about after this loss, which I think he, made up for it today, is Igor Shesterkin was requested by the media post-game, and he did not come out. Listen, you're the starting goaltender for the New York Rangers. You had one of your worst performances of the entire season, and you're about to make more than $11 million next year. Come talk to the media. Come out and talk to the media after the game, after a performance like that. Even if it's basic answers, you should come out and talk to the media after that. On the other side of things, I do understand why he didn't come out. I can totally understand that. But listen, with the circumstances, the fact that I just mentioned it, you're the starting goaltender for the New York Rangers. You're about to be the wealthiest goaltender in terms of, a contract in the NHL, in NHL history. Come out and talk to the media. And again, yesterday, did the math on Igor's stats in his last 6 games. This is from Vince Mercogliano. This does not include the game we're about to cover tonight. 1-5 with an .817 save percentage with no single better game than an .885. That's unplayable. That's borderline AHL fringe goaltender numbers. That is terrible for a guy who makes that much money. And I've defended Igor Shesterkin all season. I think it actually still has something to do with the team's play more than his play. But at some point, you got to win them a game, which I think he did today. He did do that today. And, the consensus from the New York Rangers players last night that they did speak with, and this is from Molly Walker, was pure shock that this was the effort that they came out of the break with. Now, listen, shock, I understand that. Everyone's rested. Maybe there was some rust. I mean, there were some crazy games last night. I can understand that, right? But to put in that effort after what happened, in the Four Nations face-off too, I think that was pretty unacceptable last night for sure. And then coming into this game, another unacceptable effort against the Pittsburgh Penguins. And this is the type of game, this is the type of weekend and back-to-back situation that gets a GM thinking. Because, I think that Drury has made some decent moves. Has he messed up? Absolutely, right? But I think he's made some decent moves. I'm a big fan personally of the JT Miller trade. I think that was a good move. But now this weekend is telling us a lot about this team. The Penguins outshot the Rangers at one point in this game, 26-5. And until JT Miller scored, I believe, in the second period, they didn't have a single shot. And I think there was about 4 minutes left in the period. That is unacceptable. I did also notice another trend in this game that, the Rangers are a little bit lucky to squeak out the win in this game because every shot was a long distance, not the greatest shot. Pittsburgh goaltending, we know the story around that this season. Every single shot was a long distance. I mean, JT Miller's shot was fantastic. Wilf Cooley, great goals. They're great shots, right? But they're, from the perimeter, they're out. Except for Adam Fox's shot, which we'll get to in a second too, because he needed that goal, that's for sure. But you're barely getting any shots, and then the ones you're getting are from the perimeter. And yes, a couple of them were good, but that is a little bit of a problem. A little bit of a problem. This is from Phil, and I think a lot of people, after yesterday, and the fact that they played the Penguins so closely again, with what happened the game before, the game against Columbus right before the Four Nations face-off break, I think a lot of people are starting to realize, and I've been saying it for the last little while, Ryan Lindgren, Jimmy Vesey, like all these guys, if you're in UFA, you're gone at the trade deadline. You are gone. This team needs to look different. This is from Phil. This team is just not good. Bare minimum, every UFA is getting traded, and maybe more if you can swing deals at the deadline. I think that's another thing we got to start discussing too. Even if you're not a UFA, there's a couple guys that should probably be moved, right? So, and they're not Vincent Trocheck, like they're not Will Cooley, right? Like these guys, they're going to stay on the team. JT Miller, you just traded for, obviously. If not at the draft, I wanted to say that the New York Rangers need significant turnover between now and next season. I believe that's true. There needs to be some more youth. I wouldn't be opposed, and we've been talking about trading Brendan Othman in the right deal. Like if you can go out and get a guy that would actually make a difference and he's a little bit younger, that would make sense. But you're not going to go out and buy at this year's trade deadline. There's no way you can buy with this team. The route to go now is just see if you can make the playoffs, right? Trade your UFAs, trade your Ryan Lindgrens at the deadline, get assets in return, go out and use those assets to either draft, which, again, I'm not sure they should even do that. I think you should use the assets to go out and get some younger players who can make a difference, and then see where you are and call up guys like Othman, Brett Berard, see what they do in the playoffs. If you even make the playoffs this year, get them that experience, and then coming into next year, make a couple signings. Maybe you go after Mikko Rantanen, for example, this offseason. I think there's a very real possibility he would sign with the New York Rangers. But anyway, going off on a crazy tangent, but I think that there's a lot that you can do this summer, but you have to acquire assets for guys like Jimmy Vesey, even Zach Jones if he's not playing. We will discuss that in another video for sure. But if Zach Jones is not going to play on this roster, get something for him. Get something for Ryan Lindgren. There's a lot of teams that would like a Ryan Lindgren on their third pairing. So get something for these guys at the trade deadline, and let's get a little bit younger and retool this team because it's not good enough. And I mean, Lindgren playing with Fox in the defensive zone is a nightmare. Absolute nightmare. I don't know what happened. I do know what happened. I mean, Adam Fox is not really a defensive defenseman by any means, right? But anyway, this is from Vince. It's amazing that the game was tied at all at one point in this game. This has to be one of the worst played periods the New York Rangers have had all season. That's saying something considering earlier this season. And it's just saying a lot. That says a lot. This is from Stephen Valaket, who has one of the best profile pictures on Twitter, by the way, or X. Fantastic stuff. Love that. But this is from Phil again. Ugliest win I've ever seen. This team is fool's gold. Buy nothing, Drury. I think, the Rangers have to be sellers at this year's trade deadline. Call up some young guys and see what they can do in the playoffs. Let me know in the comments what you think about that. I think the move, again, I've been saying it for a while at this point. Don't, shy away from making the playoffs. Don't go full tank mode or anything like that. Like, don't do that. But trade some of the guys like a Riley Smith as well, Ryan Lindgren, maybe Jimmy Vesey. Call up Brendan Othman, right? Like, see what they can do. And if you do make the playoffs, at least they get that experience. You're not going to win the Stanley Cup this year, right? This is a very different mindset than last year even, right? I don't know what it is. It feels like they're skating in cement sometimes. Like, it is a mentality thing, right? This season, the roster itself is not much different from last year, but get what you can for a guy like Ryan Lindgren, Riley Smith at the trade deadline. Call up these guys from Hartford, see what they can do in the playoffs. JT Miller leading the way again today. Obviously, one of the goals was an empty net, but still, I thought led the way to a degree. And then just with his style of play. And then obviously Will Cooley, no one was particularly good, but still, like, if you're gonna pick somebody. But yeah, Will Cooley, great shot again. And then Adam Fox absolutely needed that goal today. He absolutely needed that goal. It was an ugly one, but definitely needed it to start feeling good again, especially after a pretty poor Four Nations face-off. I wouldn't get rid of him. I feel like the disrespect online is towards Adam Fox is absolutely ridiculous. He's just got to find his game again because he can be a very effective defenseman. We know he's not the best defensively and in his own zone at times, but the disrespect for Adam Fox, I think, is getting a little bit ridiculous, but he's got to find his game again too. And I think it, goes hand in hand with having a D partner that fits with him, right? And Ryan Lindgren was that for quite some time, but this year it's not looking like that. So, you know what? You got to trade some of these guys, if not more. You got to find a way to get Zibanejad off this team before that contract expires. I think this offseason you got to figure out something. I know Chris Drury has gotten pretty ruthless, so figure something out. Get him off the team as well. And I love Zibanejad. I have his jersey on my wall right behind me. But you got to start to get younger in some way. And again, I don't think it's trading Igor Shesterkin or trading Will Cooley or JT Miller was a mistake. That's not true. There's a way you can retool here on the fly, even for next year, while allowing guys, younger guys from Hartford, to gain experience in the NHL. So I do expect, guys like Brett Berard and Brennan Othman to be back. But Chris Drury's got to get cracking. Let me know what you think in the comments. They squeezed out this win today, but this was a bad weekend. I don't think Rangers fans are going to go into tomorrow morning, Monday morning, feeling too good about this weekend. But let me know what you think in the comments. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.